everybody. My name is Dr. Erica Ellis. I'm a mindfulness-based clinical psychologist. I specialize in mind, body, brain issues. And today I want to talk to you guys about health and well-being. Now, when you go to therapy, in all likelihood, you're not thinking about health and well-being. You're thinking about what's not going well. You're struggling and feeling down and out and need some support. It's only natural. However, it's very important that we spend a minute thinking about what you're aiming for when you go to therapy, what the goalpost is. Otherwise, it's easy to go to therapy and spend a long time turning your issues inside and out without ever really feeling any better. So the question is there a universal goalpost? Is there a universal measure of health and well-being? And on the one hand, not really. We're really different people. We have different interests, different things we're drawn to, different things that make us happy. So inevitably, health and well-being is going to look different across the board. But on the other hand, yes, it is universal because the mechanism that underscores health and well-being appears to be the same across the board. So more specifically, the neurobiological underpinnings, what's happening in the brain, and the psychological principles, what's happening in the mind, take the same shape under the surface, even when they appear different on the outside. So educator, psychiatrist, and author Dan Siegel has built a model for health based on a concept called integration. And integration is the linkage of differentiated parts. In other words, everything's connected, but not muddled into one thing. They're separate parts that are connected. And according to neuroscientist Richard Davidson, this concept, Siegel's concept of integration, appears to be key for health in our brain and nervous system. This is called neural integration. So for example, we have two sides of the brain, the left side and the right side. You may have heard the left hemisphere, the left side governs things like language and logic, whereas the right side or right hemisphere governs things like holistic thinking, creativity, the contents of our memory. And in order to have a healthy brain, these two parts, these two sides, need to sustain the integrity of their functions, but they need to be connected. We'll talk more about this down the road in a future podcast on relationships and attachment, and we'll see the importance of these two parts of the brain being connected for attachment and bonding. Now, the key structure in the brain that ensures integration is called the prefrontal cortex, or the PFC, and it's this area right behind the forehead. In part, Siegel explains that it's primed for integration because of its location. It touches so many other parts of the brain that it makes it easy to be the integrator, easy to be the communicator. It's sometimes thought of as the CEO of the brain because it governs our executive functions like planning and organization. And as Siegel explains, it also governs a host of very important functions for relationships, from managing fear and anxiety, to regulating our bodies, to empathy and insight and attunement to other people. So from the perspective of health and well-being, the prefrontal cortex is king. And what we also know is that when the prefrontal cortex is not integrated and is not functioning optimally, that's when we see psychological issues emerge. Almost invariably, for at least the psychological issues that have been researched, the prefrontal cortex and dysfunctions in the prefrontal cortex are implicated. So looking forward to next time, I'm going to talk to you guys about something called neuroplasticity, which is how the brain changes. And we'll look at the research on neuroplasticity and the prefrontal cortex. and what we can do to improve the function of our prefrontal cortex, this CEO of our brain, and this key to health and well-being if it's not functioning as well as we'd like. That's it for today. Thanks so much for listening, and tune in next time. Thanks.